let other people get registered and get into the room before I really get into any content. If you are having any sort of troubles, I know if you can't hear me right now, but please make sure to refresh your screens if you can hear me, but you're having some difficulties. And if any of your colleagues are having trouble with audio, please make sure to remind them to refresh their screens as well. Now, this session, like I mentioned, is going to be a repeat of the very first session we had. And we're going to be covering just an overview of Orion. We're going to be covering the homepage dashboard, portfolio view, how and where to run reports, as well as how to use queries, scheduling queries, and how to find queries. I know we have a lot, so finding queries is a really important topic to discuss. This session is also being recorded. So if you have to hop off for any reason, don't worry, you're not going to be missing any content. You will receive an email of this session with the recording. If you, for some reason, don't see the email, maybe it gets lost, maybe it gets thrown into spam, then just use the link you used to access the webinar today, and that will also take you to the on-demand recording. I'm going to add this to stage. If you have any audio issues, please refresh your browser. Okay, we're a couple minutes in, so I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll get started with a couple of smaller topics. I won't get to anything too in-depth right now. Again, I want to make sure that everyone has the option to get in and get comfortable. Okay, so this is an example of what your home screen might look like. You have your dashboard in the center, and then all of our Orion apps on the left-hand side. You also have a couple of other features at the top of your screen. To open any applications, and you'll access that on the left-hand side. First, you have your favorites at the top, and then you have a more section at the bottom. So if you open it here, you can see other applications. There is always a possibility that you see an application here that you don't have access to. Those are just some different privileges. To search for any application you might not see, you can just start typing in that name. Once you figure the application that you're trying to look for, if you need to favorite it, you're going to hover over the name and click on the star. That's going to bring that application to the top of the page in your favorites. Then you can click and drag and move them around. And if you ever need to unfavorite anything, just select that star one more time. Now, something very simple that I always like to point out about Orion is that you can have more than one page open of Orion. So let's say I'm in the query app. I can right click and open that in a new tab. So then you'll see at the top of my screen, I have 2 Orion pages, right? So I can continue to work into queries here, and maybe I have portfolio audit open in my original tab. Just a small reminder, I think sometimes with other types of applications or you might only be able to have one open at a time, but with Orion, you can have multiple tabs open, and that just makes your day-to-day life a little bit easier. Now you'll notice when I move away from the applications that screen collapses. If you like to have it open, there is a little arrow on the lower left-hand corner of the screen that's going to anchor our app dock in place, and then you can have it always open. When I click into an application, again, let's just choose portfolio audit for this example. You'll notice a little pin icon now appears. I'll repeat. You do have to click into an application to see this pin. Otherwise, you won't see it. And this allows the menu for the application to always be there as well. My personal preference is to keep the apps collapsed, but the menu pinned. And this just for me makes it significantly easier to navigate the menus of a specific application. But you can always unpin it. That will collapse as well. And then I will need to hover over the application to then access those menu items. To get back to my home page, my preference is to click on the logo on the upper left-hand side. You can also click on the home icon. Either way, that's going to take me back to my home page here. Now that I'm on my home page, again, I now understand how to open my applications, and I know how to get back to my home page. Excuse me while I handle a cat here for a second. Thank you. Now, at the top of my page, I have a looking for something search bar. You're typically going to use this to look for client names. So if I start typing in butter, this is going to bring up my client, Butter Swan. It's going to give me their household as well as their accounts. When I click on the household, that's going to open up Portfolio View. We are going to take a look at Portfolio View in just a moment, but not quite yet. So I'm going to go ahead and exit from here. If you click on this little cogwheel to the right, you'll be able to see what other options I can search for. Maybe I'm very portfolio group heavy. Maybe I want to select portfolio groups. Maybe I like to search for query names on the looking for something. It's just my habit. It's something that I'm used to doing. I want to have that selected. That's completely up to you and customizable what you want to be able to search for at the top. I do like to talk about the two bottom options here, although I highly recommend leaving them selected. The show active only is going to show you active clients only. That way, you don't have to, if I type in Butter Swan, it doesn't also give me, a cousin who has a household that is canceled in Orion or someone that's no longer a client. Use contain search is just allows me when I type in butter, the name Butter Swan also popped up. So I don't have to type items in exactly as they are. It's going to search with what I do, remember, or what I do input. I'm going to go ahead and unselect these so I don't mess up this person's search. Now, following along the top, from my screen, you'll see this Focus Partners Wealth and this little icon, this little database icon here. That is just for me as an Orion employee because I can jump around from, firm to firm. So you don't need to worry if you don't see this. That's because I'm an employee. You won't have to see this. To the right of that, I do have my notifications. The main use of this is for scheduled queries. So when I schedule a query like I did for this account level AUM, it ran automatically for me and it shows up in my notifications so that I can just download the results or maybe even delete them if, I ran it more times or scheduled it more times than I actually needed. Now, in your name on the upper right-hand side, you won't be able to see it on my screen because I am logged in as a representative. But the first option under your name that you will see is Profile. When you click on Profile, that will give you accessibility settings, which you can turn on. If you do so, you'll see this little person icon on the lower left-hand side of the screen appear. When I click on that, it will give me options for different types of accessibility and visual settings. I know it's not loading for me right now, but you can turn on ADHD friendly visuals that will help you concentrate. There's also seizure safe profiles that will dim down the colors so they're not so stark and bright and might help. There are a lot of visual settings there that you can customize and tweak. That way, Orion it looks the way that you need it, and you can make, just looking and working around in Orion easier for you. So I highly recommend turning on the accessibility settings if you feel like looking at Orion is just not comfortable. There are probably some settings in there that will be helpful for you. Okay, so now we understand how to generally navigate some of the features of Orion. We can open applications, search for clients, we know where our notifications are, and we can turn on our accessibility settings. So let's talk about our first topic, which is our homepage dashboard here. Your dashboard is meant as an overview of your book of business. If you ever forget, we do have a nice helpful hint here. Hello, Chris. Here's what's happening with your business today. So it does give me an insight on I'm supposed to use this day to day to either keep track of allocations, transactions that I'm expecting, or to use for convenience with favorite reports or favorite queries as well. The really nice thing is that you can customize the dashboard. You do not have to be stuck with the default that we have provided. You can do something as simple as clicking and dragging and moving the cards around just so it fits a flow that makes sense for you. I like to have the cards that are most important to me at the top, and then other cards that I still need, but I don't want to see them as soon as I log in. Just like I can see these three, you can have those a little bit lower. You can also click on the three dots on the upper right-hand corner of each card, and this will allow you to edit, clone, and delete the card. So this is the one place in Orion where you can delete, and you are not deleting any data. So you are completely safe here. If you do, of course, delete a card that you actually ended up needing, you will need to add it. But that's super simple with the add card button at the top, which I'll show you here in a moment. So my first option here is to edit this card. And I get a pop-up with card settings. These card settings are going to look different depending on the card that I'm editing, just because there's different information, different data flowing in. But one of the main settings to keep a lookout throughout is this grouping option. So right now we have this card grouped by custodian. Maybe I want to group this by portfolio group. That's something that is important for me that I want to keep track of, and I want to, that's a metric I care about for my book of business. Now you'll notice when I choose that new grouping, the card name did not update. So it's going to be confusing for me if I notice, okay, those are my portfolio groups, but it says custodial allocation. So anytime you are changing a setting, look at the card name and make sure that it's descriptive enough for you to know what it is. Portfolio group allocation, and save. And now I have portfolio group allocation very quickly. Clone, of course, is going to create a duplicate of this card right next to it. So maybe I did like custodial allocation, but I wanted both. You can clone and change the grouping back to custodian. So I have portfolio group and custodial allocation. Now, one of the main questions, or I should say one question that I have gotten in the past is, where is this data coming from? And each card could be populated by, I would say the two main apps are going to be Portfolio Audit and the Query app. And I can see that link on the lower right-hand corner of each card. This AUM is populated by a query. If I click on that link, it's going to give me that query so I can then run it and get some more information. If I click on Portfolio Audit, since this is looking at a portfolio group, it's going to take me to the household section here of Portfolio Audit. And then to go back home, I'll click on that icon on the upper left-hand side again. So it's just a clue for you on, how these cards are being populated.